My guest today is trombonist, composer, arranger, educator, phenomenal musician, Wayne Wallace. And I'm really excited to get to interview him because I'm a fan since a long time. And he's one of the nicest, most supportive people that I know. And I got to know Wayne when he came to Bloomington a few years ago. And I had just written the book on David Baker, and we got to talk. And I realized the wealth of knowledge that he has. Let's get started with a little bit of your background. What drew you into jazz? Just a little summary.
Well, my family, my mother and my father had two Louis Jordan records, two Nat King Cole records, a jazz record called Jazz Masquerade where Charlie Parker was on it, another one with Oscar Pettiford. And I was just listening to those, I think, from age 7, 8 on. I didn't know anything about jazz. I just liked the way it sounded. And as I kept going, and I finally got to junior high school, I started studying jazz on a serious level. I realized, oh, Billy Strayhorn arranged on this. Oh, there were people in Duke Ellington's band. And fortunately, in high school, we had this wonderful teacher named Sid Walker here in San Francisco. And he started a jazz band that would meet before school. We would rehearse from 7 a.m. to 8:30 before classes officially started. And then on the lunch breaks, he would invite us into his office and he would play Freddie Hubbard and John Coltrane for us. So he laid the foundation not only for me, but for a ton of people for me at least, from 1967 to 1970. In the San Francisco music scene, it was easy. I mean, there was so much jazz besides the Fillmore West and everything else that was going on. It was fertile ground for just to go out and experiment and learn music.
Right. Yeah, it usually takes the inspiration, great educators, a great environment, and some talent to create the mix. So, you're specializing in Cuban type of styles, and you'll need to explain while we get to listen to it quite a bit on the background of its piece, because it's fascinating to, especially when you take familiar songs and transform them into new styles. So the first one we want to listen to is the Vamanos Pal Monte, if I say that right.
Yeah, Vamanos Pal Monte. It's a classic by Eddie Palmieri, and it's one of those tunes that no matter where you go in the world, if you play Latin jazz, it's a 3-chord tune and everybody knows it. It's a universal song. And it's my introduction to playing Latin jazz. That was one of the tunes I learned. There's a couple of other ones, but that one has always been there. Easy jam section tune. If you go like, hey, let's play a tune with rhythm changes, boom, everybody knows what to do. This is the equivalent of that. I did an extrapolation of it. If you go back and listen to the original version that Eddie did with his brother, Charlie Palmieri, it's just, you can see where the extrapolation comes from. One of the things I wanted to do was just take and just show some of the possibilities of what you could do arrangement-wise without losing the integrity of what the original tune was. We really don't state it in its purest form to almost the end of the song. Actually, the way the melody is, it's not even quite the way Eddie did it too. So it's all intentional.
That's fascinating, and that's the cool thing I think about jazz. I mean, that's what drew me in, that you can take music and take materials and mold it and find a new way of engaging and putting it together. And the whole recording, so this was the Rhythm of Invention recording that just came out, and got 4 starts and downbeat. Woohoo!
Woo! Yay!
That's the stamp of approval.
Yes.
Yeah, and this will be the Wayne Wallace Latin Jazz Quintet. You want to tell us real quick about the people in the quintet?
Well, we've been together since 2006, 2007. Loosely started it because we were in larger bands like Pete Escobedo's orchestra and other groups, and we just wanted to put a group together we could just have extended solos. We started doing that, and we played a gig at a club called Pearls in San Francisco, very like on Broadway, famous jazz street. And we finished the set, and somebody walked up to me and Michael Spiro and said, "You guys sound great. Where can I buy that song? I guess we should make a record." And that's what started it.
That's usually a good incentive to start. There's a need for it. Who's playing all on this? Who are they?
Well, the original quintet, we've only had one change because of unfortunately, our original trap drummer passed away, Paul von Wagenhagen. So Colin Douglas is on trap drums now. David Beloved is on bass, Murray Lowe on keyboards, piano, and Michael Spiro on percussion. That's been the solid lineup since 2006.
And that's really great to have a core unit like that where you can develop materials and play and learn how everybody else plays and play off.
Yeah, we really don't even have to talk about things that much. We
Mhm.
basically go there, go do this. It's good.
Cool. Well, let's give it a listen. Here's Vamanos Palmonte from the Wayne Wallace Latin Jazz Quintet from the Rhythm of Invention release. Here we go. That was Vamanos Palmonte from the Wayne Wallace Latin Jazz Quintet. And Wayne Wallace is my special guest. So that was uplifting and danceable. I hope everybody was getting up and moving. Let's talk about the next one that we want to listen to, which is a take on the classic Dave Brubeck Take 5. So here is a tune that everybody has a very special image of and probably knows the classic recording. I remember when I grew up, that recording was on the radio like every 5 seconds. So how did you approach remaking this? Tell us some insights about that.
There is a recording by Tito Puente doing Take 5, but he plays it in 4/4 as opposed to 5/4. And I kind of went, oh. And I went, well, I know like people that like modern Latin jazz, you hear people playing in 7/4, 9/4, and stuff like that. And if a lot of our listeners are not familiar with the engine that drives Afro-Caribbean music, it's the concept of clave. And you hear that all the time when you hear something like, so that rhythmic cell is constant through almost all types of Afro-diasporic music, especially in the Caribbean, but you can find it in South America and the United States also. And I went like, so 5/4 is uneven. And this is a 3/2 clave, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 2, right? So that's uneven in itself. So I went, let me try making a pattern that fits in a 5/4 against a clave pattern that fits, it's harder to talk about, that fits within that framework. So I kind of made up a clave to work with it and did a variation on tumbao, which is the bass line. So that's in 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 5. You'll hear it in the tune. And the montuno, the piano part, is in 5/4. Everything else just kind of played itself. Now, putting together the thing we did at the end, where we took like a traditional Afro-Cuban type of a chant. It's just made up. Almost everything we did on this was synthetic. And the biggest thing I enjoyed on this is it challenged everybody. It challenged the rhythms because they're really good at playing the traditional folkloric music. This one was like like the RCA Victor dog, when his master's voice, where they kind of go, the dog's his head when he's listening. They all ended up doing that, going like, I really got to concentrate and play on this. We had some beautiful accidents in the studio, like the introduction of the song where David Beloved was playing those harmonics on the bass at the beginning. That was not planned. That was magic that just happened in the studio. And we had a couple of things like that where we were like, yes.
It definitely works. It's really fun listen. Let's have it. So this is from the same album. So again, this is the Wayne Wallace Latin Jazz Quintet, their take on Take 5 on the Rhythm of Invention. Here we go. That was take 5, the version from the Wayne Wallace Latin Jazz Quintet from the Rhythm of Invention. And Wayne Wallace is my special guest, and we'll keep talking about his music. It's not just the small ensembles. Some of the recordings are very, very large ensemble. And I should point out that most of your recordings were also Grammy nominated. So how many nominations did you get so far?
For the quintet, we've had 4. I have been on 7, I think 7 to 8, I can't remember, nominated recordings. Steve Berrios, the Asian American Orchestra, Pete Escovedo, the Machete Ensemble. There might be another one. Oh, I was actually on a Chris Isaak one. They didn't give us a credit on it, but we were on one of Chris Isaak's records from here in the Bay Area. On one of his records that got Grammy nominated.
That's quite a record. Time to win one, right?
Yeah, it's fine. Just being recognized by your peers is cool.
Yeah, I know. It's like another stamp of approval when you have that Grammy nomination.
It's great. But if you can get it to the point where everybody goes, this is something that's valid, you've done your job.
Talking about validation, so the next one we'll listen to, we're going from the quintet to 35 pieces?
In total, yes. On this particular one, there's 8 strings, 4 trombones, 4 vocalists, and the quintet. So it isn't until we get to the second to last track where everybody is involved with it. This was an interesting project. Michael Spiro received a grant from Indiana University to do something that involved the students as well as faculty. So it was a $10,000 grant. We started working on it. This came out in 2016. We started working on this in 2014. The pre-production took a year and a half for this record. On our breaks, we would work on it here at my house in San Francisco on computer, put the score together, all the ideas. And then we came back and started working on it back in Bloomington, did some more out here, some more in Bloomington, some more out here. It took forever to mix. This is one of the hardest, most intense projects I've ever done. It's complicated. But at the end of it, we finally sat down and listened to it and went, yeah, it's just the best thing we've ever done. From an artistic, aesthetic, and technical level, I'm just so pleased with this recording.
When we listen to that, listen for that mastery of arranging those techniques on integrating the strings into this whole picture. And again, get up and dance, because that's what it's for. Move.
Yeah, this is a straight up dance piece.
So, La Propaganda de Hoy from the album Canto America that came out in 2016, supported by a grant from the Indiana University Institute for Advanced Studies, and featuring the Wayne Wallace Latin Jazz Quintet with orchestra combined of faculty and students and more. Here we go.
muchachos, la propaganda de hoy. Están tocando con su bomba y con su máquina me voy. Traen los muchachos, la propaganda de hoy. Están tocando con su bomba y con su máquina me voy. Traen los muchachos, la propaganda de hoy. Están tocando con su bomba y con su máquina me voy. Traen los muchachos, la propaganda de hoy. Me están tocando con su bomba y con su máquina me voy. Traen los muchachos, la propaganda de hoy. Me están tocando con su bomba, cuidado, y con ellos me voy.
That was La Propaganda de Hoy from the album Canto America with the very large orchestra Sinfonietta. We're featuring the Wayne Wallace Quintet and students, faculty from Indiana University and beyond. Wayne Wallace is my guest, and we were going kind of backwards in history already. We had the newest recording and then the 2016 recording. Let's go back to some of the early recordings from your group. This one called The Reckless Search for Beauty, done in 2007. So these are, you told us earlier the story on how you started recording. This might be one of your first recordings?
Well, no, this is actually, there's a much longer story to this, but this was when I started a record label. This was the second record I released on my record label, but the longer story is that I released two records at the same time, and they both came out concurrently, but they were totally different records. The short end of the story is I was on a record label called Spirit Nectar Records around 2000, 2001, released two records, and that stopped, and I went like, what the heck, I'll just do my own record company. The owner from the company called me up while I was getting ready to do this one and say, hey, do you want to make a record? I want to do one more record. He said, okay, sure. The only thing he said, the only thing I want is I want you to do two John Coltrane tunes on this, and I want to play flute on them. You can pick the musicians. You can pick all the other songs you want. I said, okay, sounds good. And the last thing is, you own the record. And he just gave it to me. And it's opposed to like putting out two different records. I'm like, hell, let's try putting out, I don't know anybody who puts out two different records at the same time. We did it, and it worked out. The other record was called Dedication. Andrea Brockfell, John Santos, a whole bunch of folks, an all-star cast on that record. And then this other one was my band that we've been working on for a while. We've done quite a bit of work, my larger ensemble before the quintet. And I was commissioned to write something for the Lafayette Jazz Festival here in California, which is in the East Bay, just past Berkeley, for Lafayette, California. And I went, okay, let's try it. And I really think this is when I began to find my voice as a writer, because I started playing these games like normally if you have a clave, like we talked about, it's a two-bar phrase. So I started doing stuff where I would have the clave stay like that, but I'd make a 3-bar phrase against it so it would overlap every time. When you hear the end of this tune, you hear that. And it's like, it's familiar but unfamiliar at the same time. And it really just keeps pushing the energy forward. And we've been experimenting with that going forward. It's kind of become our trademark of these uneven bar phrases back and forth. And of course, other people have done it, but I really embrace that as a part of my writing. It was nice to do a real big band chart also. I mean, this is truly a Latin big band chart. 5 saxes, 4 trombones, 4 trumpets, electric guitar, Latin rhythm section. And I think this was the thing that kind of put me on the trajectory of how I perceive myself as a writer. This particular chart.
That's great to hear and think about too, because, you know, you don't just fall from heaven and you write in a specific way and do things. It's all a learning process, and every artist finds their voice along the way in a specific way or in a broad way, but it's always a process of developing and looking further and taking in all these things you like and molding it in a way that fits your personality. So that's a really great thing to listen to, especially now that we got to know the later work and see where it all comes from. So it's called Paso a Paso. Give us, for us non-Spanish people.
There's 2 ways to look at that phrase. Literally, it's step by step. So paso, but it also in slang means every little bit counts.
Paso a Paso. And this is, I love the title from that album, The Reckless Search for Beauty. And actually released on Wayne Wallace's own label. What's the name of the label again?
The record label is Patois Records.
Patois
so it's
Records.
so like Creole, any mixture of different cultures. That's what I wanted the label, it being a multilingual label for different styles.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's another important piece in the puzzle, you know, being able to put your music out and taking that step of creating your own label ensures that you can do it in a way that supports your music best, with not having the middleman trying to take parts and pieces and all that. It's a lot of work, but it pays back eventually.
You're not going to sleep, and you're going to do a ton of emails and phone calls, which you know already. When it comes to the end, you can look at yourself and say, I did the best I could do under the circumstances that I had, which is fine. What's that model might be more prevalent today with what we're going through with the virus. You know, you're probably better off having some more control of product than before, than 6 months ago. Hopefully we can find a middle ground. It doesn't have to be one extreme or the other. But right now, we're basically, as artists, we're on our own. We got to figure out what we're going to do.
Right. All right. So let's have a listen to Paso a Paso. This is from the Reckless Search for Beauty, Patois record, Wayne Wallace Jazz Quintet, released in 2007. That was Paso a Paso by the Wayne Wallace Quintet from the Reckless Search of Beauty from 2007. And we have one more. And this track is special to me too, because it features one of my mentor and somebody that I had a really close connection to. So this is the title track from the Rhythm of Invention album that came out last year. And I know there's a lot of stories to it, so let's just jump right in. Tell us some of the background here.
My part in it was the song, I think it's like 6 minutes and something long on the record, something like that. We recorded 12 minutes worth of music on this. And this goes back to my history. In the 80s, I was working with an R&B band called Confunction. And a lot of what was happening with the reel-to-reel then was for one song, say like you have a Kool and the Gang, Ladies Night, any of those tunes, Celebration, they would record the tune for 30 minutes and then come back and edit it and just let the lead vocalist improvise over the same sections, as it went along, and then edit it and get it down. There's a lot of freedom in that. If you tell somebody it's got to be a certain way, they get all uptight and don't make a mistake, and they lose that joie de vivre or whatever it might be that lets them be loosey-goosey and make it sound like soulful. So what I did was on this one, because I always think I get one get out of jail free card on every record. This was my get out of jail free card. It was interesting. I said, okay guys, here's a click track. I've got a cowbell, that's a metronome. We're gonna play this section, which is really 16 bars. We're gonna play it for 64 bars. Here's a 64 bar section. We're gonna play it for 128 bars. And subconsciously, regardless of what it was, everybody's up, I have to nail it. I got to get it right. In particular, Colin on drums, you can hear that he got it right the first 2 times, and there's 6 more times. It goes, okay, well, I can play more stuff. And they kept playing it. I remember this distinctly when we were listening to playback, and he goes, somewhere around the 4th or 5th time, goes, did I play too much? I went, no. Inevitably, the things that you hear on the record are the 5th and 6th, 7th, and 8th times. And that happened all the way through the record on that particular recording. So it gave people the freedom just to do stuff. And what was it? The rap that's on there, the spoken word, is my son-in-law. He made that up in the studio. He did the duet with Mary Feddick on bass clarinet live. I said, just do it, go. I'm not gonna tell you what to do, just do it. And they did it, it was perfect. We did whatever editing needed to be done. The spoken word from David, we had to take and manipulate so it fit rhythmically with what was going on. The string players, once again, had a horrible time playing the 3 against 2 feeling, because it's going, they're going, go, like playing in 12/8 against it. And they kind of was like, it got wobbly for them. But we got it, so it worked. And just had a lot of fun. I had them do some things like, I had them bounce the back of their bows off the strings in a clave pad. You can hear that at the end of the song. So I went like, just do it. I don't even care, just play it. And we put it in there and it all worked.
We'll listen to this piece as our grand finale, and big tribute to David Baker.
Yeah. Oh, one more David Baker story.
Go for it.
I have David Baker books from when I was a teenager here. And when I was going to college, first time I met David was at the Stanford Jazz Workshop in Palo Alto in Stanford. And the first time I met him, he had a Los Angeles Lakers warm-up suit on. We connected immediately. 6 degrees of separation. I had no idea I would be working with him at Indiana University 20 years later.
Lakers shirt was a trademark of David. And, talk about 6 degrees of separation. One of the things to realize is that everybody who has anything to do with jazz, even just listeners, either they studied with him or they studied with somebody who studied with him or they studied with a book of him or somebody. I mean, everybody is connected to this man in some way in this world. And that's the thing to realize.
I totally agree. I mean, his tentacles are so far-reaching worldwide, not just in the United States. It wouldn't be a stretch to say he codified jazz education. See, people can argue, discuss, debate, but I don't think there are too many other people that fall in that top tier the way he did.
The ABCs, Abersold, Baker, and Coker of
That's
jazz
right.
education.
Yeah. I try to impart that to all my trombone students. A lot of kids don't know that. So I always try to tell them about that. And they go back and they research it and they go, oh, yeah, you're right.
There's something about those trombone players. All right, with all that background, let's listen to one last one. And thank you so much for being a guest today. That was such a treat to get to talk and reminisce and learn a lot. So thank you, Wayne.
That was fun. Thank you, Miss Monika. Hopefully, I'll see you in the flesh relatively soon. We get through whatever this thing is, and we can actually all be together again.
We will even make music, I hope.
I'm looking forward to it.
So here is the Rhythm of Invention, the title track of the Rhythm of Invention, the 2019 release of the Wayne Wallace Quintet. Thank you, Wayne, and enjoy.
Rhythm, the presence of life, the ignition, the spark, heartbeat of invention. The pulse gyrating through the system, build the grooves, you can feel it move. Boom clacks all rolled into one, stay connected through the soul of the drum. Boom clacks all rolled into one, be expressive through the soul of the drum. From a place of youth, the base, the roots, shake your boots, embrace the fruitful sounds. Feel the highs, the lows, the rhythm trapped inside the flows, slave to the rhythm, it's mind control. Boom clacks all rolled into one, stay connected through the soul of the drum. Breathe life through the soul of the drum, illuminated through the glow of the sun. Rhythm of invention. Rhythm of invention.
Layers of rhythm piled one on top of the other. Drummers intersecting each other at places that are not normally thought of places where you can join the music. Music transcends these delimiting definitions, and he played music. A multiplicity of things. It's a lot of things to a lot of different people. Perhaps the only means of expression for unoppressed people. Around 1910. West African heritage, democratization of values, and in that kind of thinking, every beat has as much importance as every other beat. Layers, rhythm, power one on top of the other. Drummers intersecting each other in places that are not normally thought of places where you can join the music. Music transcends these delimiting definitions, and he played music.
Rhythm of invention, heartbeat, ignition, gyrate the system, build the groove, you can feel it move. Boom claps all rolled into one, stay connected through the soul of the drum. Boom claps all rolled in one, express it through the soul of the drum. Find a place to use the bass, the root, shake your boots, embrace the fruitful sounds, the highs, the lows, rhythm trapped inside the flows. Slaves to the rhythm, it's mind control. Boom claps all rolled in one, stay connected through the soul of the drum. Breathe life through the soul of the drum, illuminated through the glow of the sun. Rhythm of invention, rhythm of invention. The ignition, the spark, the heartbeat of invention. Gyrating through the system, build the grooves, you can feel the move.
You're listening to Talking Jazz. My guest today was Wayne Wallace, educator, trombonist, arranger, composer, and faculty at Indiana University. Tune in every Thursday at 11 a.m. and Tuesdays at 7 p.m. on WETF South Bend, Indiana, or find us online at WETFthejazzstation.org. Previous recordings of interviews and music are also available on the Monika Herzig YouTube channel under Talking Jazz. Find MonikaHerzig and subscribe. Thank you for listening.